What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best 10 brawlers inside of Brawl Stars since the update. So it's only been one day, so this is more of a prediction. Of course, I'll have a more solid understanding of the meta probably around Sunday, where I'll be doing a tier list. But for now, let's take a look at some of the brawlers that have become really good, because there's been a bunch of hypercharges, there's been so many balance changes and a big meta shift. So I will say there's nothing glaringly broken in this meta just yet. It's been pretty hard to devise this list, but let's jump into it anyway. So at number 10, I went with Stu. So it might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Stu would be better in ranked, for example, and in competitive, because he got some big buffs. He got a 10% HP buff, and he got a 10% buff to his gas heal star power. So Stu was just like around the B tier. He was just pretty good, but now I think he'll really excel in the game modes he was good in about a year ago. It's like Hot Zone, Gem Grab, Brawl. He's always going to be a good asset, especially with being really versatile with his builds as well. I think he's going to be a super strong brawler again. Watch this space. Before we get into the video, I need you guys to check out this amazing Tribe video. Tribe have teamed up with the Samsung Z Fold 6 to host the 2024 Brawl Olympics over on the Tribe Gaming YouTube channel. During this event, we were split into 3 teams, where I was on the EU team with Tom and Kairos. That is a stacked roster, and surely we were destined to win this. But the competition was fierce, varying from insane pros, crazy YouTubers,
told you that I can't see,
and Lex. We were set with a task to complete various challenges and mini games, and the team at the end with the most points would be able to claim the $3,000 prize. And there were also so many hilarious moments, and my favorite moment was definitely Lex attempting to draw Spike.
Mine is...
And this event was powered by the beautiful Samsung Z Fold 6, and there's so many awesome features that you guys definitely want to check out using the link in the description below. And this video is an absolute banger, so if you want to check out the video for yourself, head over to the Tribe Gaming YouTube channel, or you can click on the link in the description. So before we jump into the rest of the ranking, let's take a look at a few honorable mentions. First off, we have Meg. So I'm unsure whether the damage nerf was actually enough. She still seems like she rips through people, but again, we've still got to test out this nerf. We've got Jean, who's always going to be a consistent brawler and bound to knock out Gem Grab. Angelo, again, one of those brawlers that people kind of forget about, but he's still really solid and prevalent in the meta. Same goes with Max as well. And then we have Kit and Tara. So I think Tara could be a sleeper pick. I think she cycles hype charges actually a lot quicker than I realized, and the buffs to the star powers are pretty good. Anyways, let's jump into number 9 then. So at number 9, we have Byron. So Byron, I think, is still an insane brawler in the meta. He has always been SA tier. I think the only thing that could stop him from being a top 10 brawler is if Mortis and Daryl are just really that good. Then he might struggle a little bit to cope with them. But I think overall, when you take a look at where he's strong in, he's pretty much strong everywhere. As long as it's not a super grassy map, you'll have value with Byron. He's got a really good super, charges it really quick, good damage, good healing, and of course, being a sniper, his projectiles are so easy to hit. So he's kind of like a sniper assassin with that thrower. So I think Byron is still pretty insane, and I think easily at least towards the top 10. So now jumping into number 8, we have Surge. So I think he's resurged into the meta. I thought he was already like an 8-tier brawler. He just needed a bit of a better map with some grass, but I think since the introduction of the hypercharge, it's just elevated him to a new level. So it only takes you about till you get to the maximum level, and then you get your hypercharge, and I underrated it a little bit. I think it's just better when it's a more open scenario. You know you're going to get value. And for example, if the opponents are hiding behind walls, well, if you have 3 pieces of ammo, you can literally delete them. Pretty much every brawler, as long as they're not a tank, which is insane. Again, there's just so many pop-off moments with Surge. I think the hypercharge is going to allow him to become a top 10 brawler again. So next up at number 7, we have Chester. So he sneaked his way into the top 10, in my opinion, after watching the LCQ, after just seeing Chester, how strong he is in the meta. He surely has to be top 10 now, because there's been so many nerfs to meta brawlers around him, and he's just a perfect counter to some tankier options. Of course, since the rework to his star power, it's just allowed him to deal a lot more consistent damage, which has allowed him to just tank counter a lot harder. But not only that, there's some really grassy maps in the map where Chester's main attack just is beautiful. And you've got to remember, when Chester gets up close, he can literally rip through near enough every single brawler inside of the game. Good, consistent poke damage. He's got really good wall peeking capabilities as well. And if you get the chance to, of course, get his Dynamite super, then you're going to be able to change the game pretty easily, especially in Brawl and other scenarios. I just saw the play rate and the win rate go through the roof with him, and I think he's easily around the top 10. So it's the 6th best brawler in the game right now. We went with the twins. Larry is just absolutely insane in this meta. He's just good pretty much everywhere. And again, in pro play, play. I know that was before the balance changes, but he was already starting to see such an increase in his play rate. Main reason being he's got a super versatile build as well. If you're up against enemy throws and other stuff, you can just go with a protect star power, but if you're up against tanks, you can go with the assist star power, which you end up getting so much ammo back and allows you to counter tanks as a thrower even harder. So the pros have been adapting their build, and that's just made him even better. Of course, he's great in knockout and bounty as a long range thrower, and I've seen him used a lot even on grassy maps on like center stage. He's been using him as a gem carrier and undermine. I've seen Tribe go for that, so I think he's just getting better and better, and now with nerfs to other meta brawlers, I think he'll really shine. I think he's definitely a top 10 brawler. Jumping into the 5th best brawler in the game right now, we went with Mortis. So I know it's going to be a hot take. I know I'm going to get flamed in the comment section for it, and I might be wrong, but I think I'm just early. I'm never wrong, I'm just early. I think that he'll be even better in a week's time. This hype charge is broken, guys. You need to get it. It's absolutely busted. The reason why it's so good, it takes only 2 supers to get, which the first super Mortis is always hard to get, but if you cycle successfully with it, you'll get hype charge in no time, and once you get the hype charge, it's just over. You combine it with the mythic gear, and that's the reason why it's so broken, guys. You need the mythic gear equipped with Mortis, because you can just snipe people with this hype charge. If you line up 2 people and you hit 2 people with that hype charge and it returns back, you get another one straight away. So if you do that again, that is 9k damage. 9k damage, and you wouldn't believe how easy that is to do. I've got team wipe after team wipe with Mortis, and I'm the worst Mortis player in the world. So if I'm making plays with Mortis and his hyper charge, surely he's got to be good. Again, I've got to wait for pros to get their hands on it, but I just think the team wipe potential, the turnaround potential is just too much with this brawler. There might be a million counters to him in the game, but once he gets his hyper charge, who cares about the counters, because he's going to be team wiping, and that's what the difference maker is between a good brawler and a really strong brawler, which Mortis, I think he is. I'm hoping I'm not wrong, but I think he is pretty secretly broken. So now jumping into the 4th best brawler in the game right now, I went with Gail. So I know they fixed his super damage bug, which made it so he don't no longer deal like 2k plus nearly 3k with every single super, but they still buffed his super damage from what it was before by 34% up to 1640, and I think that's still going to be good enough for Gail to be a top 10 brawler in the meta. You think he's a great shutdown to all of the tanks out there. He's got a good hyper charge. His super's still going to deal insane damage, 2 versatile star powers as well, and I just don't think there's really a moment where he can't go Gail. He's good pretty much everywhere. He's good in Heist, on Kaboom Canyon for example with the launch pad. He's just good in draft format because he will just completely shut down tanks. And if you think about it, some of the best brawlers that I put on this list, like Mortis, Daryl, maybe some other brawlers, he just hard counters so much the assassins and tanks out there. They can't do anything. So for that reason, I think Gail will stay minimum a top 10 brawler in this meta. So now jumping into the 3rd best brawler in the game right now, I've still gone with Frank. So I know he received 3 nerfs, but I don't think the nerfs actually really did too much to him, mainly because they touched things that weren't even that broken with him, like the sponge star power nerf for example. Everybody uses power grab right now. The health nerf, it was only 600 HP, and if anything that just allows him to get quicker reload faster. And then you've also got the gadget nerf, which again I think most of the time people will probably use the other gadgets. So all in all, I don't think the nerfs are really going to impact him too much, and if you saw the power of Frank in LCQ, you'd know that he actually needs a lot more nerfs to tone him down, because in pro play people will just first picking him. And you'd think Frank's an easier brawler to counter, right? Well, if pros are first picking him in draft, that just goes to show the power of this brawler, because tanks are just so easy to counter as the draft goes on. So yeah, I think Frank's still a really good brawler. Even with some of the meta brawlers right now countering him, I just think literally the meta revolves around trying to counter this brawler. So that just goes to show how strong he is. Jumping into the 2nd best brawler in the game right now, I went with Clancy. So I will say in ranked, he's easier to counter, but ladder, he's the most free brawler to push ever, mainly because you're always going to face off against, especially now, Daryl, Frank, Mortis, all of these high HP brawlers. They're just going to feed you unlimited supers, and the average Brawl Stars player, they won't know how to keep their distance and stay patient against the Clancy. So he's just going to farm super so easily. If you pop the gadget and the super at the same time, you're just going to get to that 3rd level instantly, and Clancy 3rd level is still the best brawler in the game hands down, and it's just so easy to get to that 3rd stage. So I think until they put in maybe maybe a mechanic where he loses tokens when he dies, because let's face it, I think it is a little bit dumb how as a Clancy you can be so aggressive and not get punished for it, whereas Surge you'll lose all of your levels. Like I'm talking like maybe a couple of tokens, so at least then it doesn't respawn with the additional movement speed. And again, the additional movement speed is just crazy with him, especially in like overtime in Brawl, for example. You've still got the fact that his super deals insane damage. His supercharge rate was nerfed, but again, I just think it's not enough. He still shuts down tanks way too much. He's just still too broken. So now we're going to be jumping into the best brawler in the game right now. We have Daryl, and I know a few people will say I'm overreacting, but trust me, try him out a little bit more. It takes a little while to get used to how to get the most value out of Daryl, but I think he's broken. I think he's so incredibly broken. If you see some plays that you can make with Daryl, it's just way too much. Like, I'm just steamrolling through even the hardest of matchups because of how good he is. It's the fact that you get that double knockback ability, and the best way to utilize him is to use one super. You know, typically you want to land on someone, but you can even just use a super and then another super, just like Melody, and then by the time you've landed on someone, you build up your next attack, and then you have another 2 supers. You're just infinitely rolling around the map. You're infinitely getting damage reduction through the star power, and I'm just literally carrying. I'm like, the thing is, I know where Brawler's broken when I'm using Daryl in shooting star and it's working. Like, he's literally a tank and I'm using him shooting star and it's working. That's when you know he's completely broken. I think it'll take a little while for people to realize just how strong he is, but I just think he's the best brawler in the game, hands down. I don't think like the meta's too unbalanced though, so you're not going to go into a game and just completely team wipe all of the time like other broken brawlers in the past, like Larry and Laurie. But once you adapt to those 2 supercharges, I think he honestly is the best brawler in the game right now. So let me know down in the comment section below whether I missed on any brawlers. Again, there's a couple of hot takes like Daryl and Mortis. I think for the most part, I'm pretty happy with this list, but I will be completely happy with the tier list, which I'll be doing around Sunday/Monday. So make sure to subscribe for that. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.